All right, if you've been searching how to succeed with myEcon, why some people fail in myEcon, how to make myEcon work, or what it really takes to win with myEcon, then this video is for you because that is where a lot of people get it twisted. People love asking, does myEcon work? Can you make money with myEcon? Can myEcon help you financially? But the better question is this: what actually makes someone succeed with myEcon? Because the truth is, it's not random. It's not luck. It's not magic. And it's definitely not just about signing up and hoping for the best. Some people get real value. Some people get real results. I did. Some people build real momentum from that. And other people do absolutely nothing and turn around and act confused about why it didn't work, why nothing changed for them. So in this video, I want to break down what actually separates the people who win with myEcon from the people who stall out, stay stuck, or quit. And if you're serious about understanding how myEcon works in the real world, this is one of the most important videos that you can watch. First, let's say something that needs to be said right out of the gate. The people who succeed with myEcon usually do not treat it like a magic button. That's the biggest difference. A lot of people come in to anything involving business, money, credit, or financial improvement with fantasy expectations because that's what they see out there. That's what is all over the internet is fantasy expectations. You're going to be rich in 3 months driving a car that costs $250,000 like that. None of that is real. Those are all rented lifestyles. Those people don't actually own that stuff. But people come in with those fantasy expectations. They want the instant results, instant confidence, instant skill, instant momentum, instant income. And when it doesn't happen immediately, they mentally check out. That mindset kills people before they ever even really get started. Because listen, success with myEcon usually comes from people who understand something very simple. Results come from using the system properly, not just being near it. And that matters because being signed up is not the same as being engaged. Having access is not the same as taking action. Being in the room is not the same as doing the work. And that is where the gap starts. Now, let me get specific. The first thing that usually makes someone succeed with myEcon is this: they actually use the products. And that sounds obvious, but you would be shocked at how many people skip even looking at the products. They join something built around real products and real financial improvement, and then they barely touch the product side. And that's a big mistake because the people who tend to get the most out of myEcon are usually the people who actually use what is there. They work on their own financial situation. They pay attention to their own credit. They improve their own awareness. They apply the education, start fixing their own financial leaks, start understanding their own money better. So why does that matter so much? Because when people actually use the products, some very important things happen. First, they get personal value from it. Second, they build real understanding. Then third, they develop actual belief instead of borrowed hype. And that is power. That's powerful because somebody who has personally benefited from something speaks differently than somebody who is just repeating what they heard. They're more believable, more grounded, confident, and credible. And credibility matters. You hear me talk about credibility all the time, especially if you ever want to really build an affiliate business. So if you want to know how to make myEcon work, step one is simple. Use the products, not just the idea of them, not just the name, not just the opportunity that's attached to them. Use them. And if you already have good credit, you still need to go through the system. Go through every one of the products so you understand it. That's why I'm so successful with myEcon. I've benefited substantially from every single aspect. Every single product I use almost on a daily basis. And that's why I'm successful, because myEcon is everything to me. And that's why I want to share it with as many people as I can without presenting that hype, that income claims that are clearly inflated. I don't do that. I do reality. So the second thing that helps people succeed with myEcon is this. They stop looking for easy and start looking for effective. And this is this is a huge one. A lot of people sabotage themselves because they're obsessed with easy. They want easy money, easy customers, growth, easy conversations, confidence. And because they are chasing easy, they avoid the very things that would actually make them effective, right? They avoid learning. They avoid consistency. They try to avoid discomfort. You have to have skill building. You can't avoid it. They avoid repetition, and repetition is what matters. Repetition is what brings results, right? People can't avoid boring stuff that creates real results. That's why so many people stay stuck, because they're not committed to effective. They are addicted to easy. Success with myEcon usually goes to the people who break that addiction. They stop asking, what's the easiest way? What's the fastest way? They start asking, what is the most useful thing I can do consistently? That's a completely different mindset, and it creates a completely different outcome. The third thing that helps people succeed with myEcon, realistic expectations, right? They're all huge. This is another huge one, right? Because unrealistic expectations destroy momentum fast. Some people join and think they should understand everything immediately. Some people think they should start earning instantly. Some people think one post, one conversation, or 1 week of effort should completely change their financial situation. And when it doesn't happen, they start doubting everything. That's emotional weakness, and it wrecks progress. The people who succeed usually understand that progress often looks like this. You learn, you adjust, you improve, get better, become clearer, build confidence, you build skill, you build trust. That momentum starts stacking. That's how real growth works. Not always overnight, not always dramatically, but steadily. And honestly, this applies whether someone is using myEcon mainly for the products or trying to build a business side. If somebody expects instant transformation in either lane, they are probably going to disappoint themselves. But if somebody expects a process and commits to it, they give themselves a real chance. The fourth thing that helps people succeed with myEcon, they get serious about consistency. This is where a lot of people get exposed, because everybody likes the idea of success. Very few people like consistency. Consistency is what reveals who is serious and who is just emotionally excited. Anybody can be motivated for a day. Anybody can be fired up for a weekend. Anybody can talk big for a week. But consistency is different. Consistency is what you do when you're tired, what you do when you're busy, or you're discouraged, or you don't feel like you're being seen, when results are not immediate, when you start building. That is where real builders separate themselves. And if someone is trying to build myEcon as an affiliate, this becomes even more important, because consistent visibility matters. Consistent learning matters. Consistent communication matters. Consistent follow-up matters. Consistent content matters. You don't build momentum by showing up randomly. I'm sorry I said consistent so much, but it's important. You build momentum by showing up enough times that people start to take you seriously. That's how trust builds. The fifth thing that helps people succeed with myEcon is they learn how to communicate value clearly. This is another major separator. A lot of people fail because they don't know how to explain what myEcon actually does, right? They're vague or hypey. They're all over the place. They talk in circles and they sound uncertain, or they only talk about money and skip the actual value. That doesn't work out well, right? People need clarity. They need to understand, what is this? Who is this for? How can it help? How can it help me? How can it help people? Why should they care? What makes it different? Is this about products, income, financial education, or all of the above? Right? The people who succeed are usually the ones who get better and better at communicating those answers simply. Not perfectly, just clearly, because confusion kills a conversation. If people can't understand what you're talking about, most of them will just move on. right? That's true in content, that's true in conversations, and it's true in business in general. So if you want success with myEcon, become somebody who can explain value in a way normal people can understand, right? That's a real skill and it pays. It pays a lot, right? The sixth thing that helps people succeed with myEcon is they stop making everything about themselves. And this is subtle, but it's another huge one. A lot of people approach building anything online from the wrong posture. They're desperate, needy. They're focused on what they want. They're thinking, how do I get signups? How do I get people? How do I get money? How do I make money? That energy is felt and it pushes people away. The stronger posture is different. It's how do I communicate clearly? How do I show value? How do I help the right people understand whether this fits them? How do I become useful? That shift is going to change everything, because when people feel like you're trying to force them, they resist. But when they feel like you actually understand the value and can explain it clearly, that's where trust starts to build. And trust is what moves people, right? The seventh thing that helps people succeed with myEcon, they stay in one lane long enough to gain traction. This one is brutal because so many people destroy their own progress. They bounce around, right? One day they're excited. 3 days later, they're distracted. A week later, they're questioning everything. 2 weeks later, they're chasing something else, right? That pattern kills momentum every time you start over, because traction usually does not come from constantly resetting yourself, right? It comes from staying with something long enough to become competent, long enough to get clearer, improve, long enough to be taken seriously, right? Long enough to let the reps compound. And that applies whether somebody is using the products for personal improvement or building the business side. People who keep restarting usually stay beginners, because people who stay engaged and keep building usually stop being beginners, right? That's the difference. Now let's talk about what usually causes people to fail with myEcon. Usually is not because the person was incapable. Usually it's because they did one or more of these things. They expected magic. They ignored the products. They wanted easy instead of effective. They were inconsistent, poorly communicated. They chased hype. They quit too early. They never gave themselves enough time to become good at anything. That's what usually happens. And I'm not saying if you stay a member and you stay doing nothing for months, something's going to change. You have to do, right? You have to do it. And this matters because when people fail, they often blame the wrong thing, right? They blame the company or the model. They blame the timing or the market. They blame the sponsor. They blame the platform. Now, sure, some of those factors can matter, absolutely. But a lot of the time, the deeper problem is simpler. They never became the kind of person who could get results. That's the uncomfortable truth. Results take time. And that truth matters because it means the solution is not always find something else, right? Sometimes the solution is get sharper, clearer, more disciplined, get more consistent, get more useful. That's where progress starts. So let's answer the question directly. What makes someone actually succeed with myEcon? We just went over that, right? They use the products. They build real understanding, realistic expectations. They stay consistent. They learn to communicate clearly and focus on value. They stay in the game long enough to build traction. That's what usually makes the difference. It's not luck. It's not hype. It's not fantasy. It's not shortcuts. The real difference is usually the person. And that should be encouraging, because if the person is the variable, that means improvement is possible, right? It means growth is possible. It means somebody who is not great today can become much stronger over time if they're willing to stay with it, learn, improve. That's the opportunity. So if you're asking whether myEcon can work, ask a better question. Am I willing to do the things that actually lead to results? That's the real question, because the people who win are usually not the people who got lucky. They're the people who got serious. So if this video helped you understand what actually makes someone succeed with myEcon, hit that subscribe button, because this playlist is being built to break down myEcon in a real world, no BS way. Drop your answer or your opinion in the comments for me. What do you think matters most with myEcon? Product use, consistency, communication, or mindset? That's a conversation worth having. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.